it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
Episode 83, and the boys are live. We're back virtual. Thursday was fun, though. We had some fun getting together. Smashed a pizza from our friends over at Joe Cool's. Had a couple pops from Toboggan. But we're back to virtual. Every once in a while, you'll see us back in person. But pretty wild week 10 of football. How you guys feeling right now?
Victory Monday. I just keep chaining these things together, boys. I feel great.
Yeah, there's nothing like
Didn't
keeping
Texas
around too
lose?
early.
Oh,
Hey, we are not in Kansas anymore.
oh, we had to go there. You know what's crazy too is I go and make fun of Kansas. I actually out Kansas, make it say that only bad people go to play there. And what do? They go and beat us that weekend. I didn't even know they were playing Kansas because I wasn't shit talking because we were lined up to play them this weekend. But that's really upsetting that's how we go out.
You pretty much lost at Bishop Sacrament.
Oh, terrible. and then the basketball team didn't do much better against Gonzaga either, right? So
I'll give you a pass on the Gonzaga one because that team's pretty good, eh?
yeah, they are good.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up about that one. Loaded show today. We got our boy Trevor, who races at a Delaware Speedway, who's going to join us in about 20 minutes. We're going to catch up on a little bit of local racing and see if he's got a pick for a Super Bowl or whatever. I hear he's a Bucs fan. That kind of stinks for him, but tough week for the Bucs. Before we get started, go through the complete rundown here. Big shout out to our friends over at CoolBet, obviously hooking us up. This week, they were able to take a little bit of our money, which is a segue into fuck happened to the Bucs.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started. This happened to us last year. We had a rough November last year. We bounced back, ran the table in December. We have Tom Brady's pretty good at football. I'm not that concerned about it. And we're going to get some defensive starters back. So, you know what? In the words of my good friend Aaron Rodgers, we just need to RELAX and relax. The Bucs will be fine.
Jeez.
Okay,
I mean, this is a perfect example of why you can't box score watch though, because you go and look at the numbers. To me, it doesn't look like Tom Brady had that bad of a game. 2 interceptions for any quarterback is going to be a rough game, but it doesn't look that bad on paper. That first half
they were in
was
the span
terrible.
of 8 minutes though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was really that first half was just really bad, and Washington wins, great for the team. It's a great team victory there, but at what cost? You lost Chase Young, right? Well, it looks to be we lost Chase Young for the year anyway. And if it's this late in the season, done for the year, okay. And this late in the season, that's going to leak into the first 2 to 5 games of next year as well. So, at what cost is that victory good for? Good win for them though.
It was such a football play on his end. It didn't look. It was very little contact. And it just shows when you're that much of a freak athlete what can happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just couldn't. His body ran faster than his legs could, or his knee could anyway. And he's in tough shape. Chad's weird sideways now, but
There you
um,
go.
we're
So like now,
we're good.
but like Heineke, like is he really the answer at this point, guys? Like I know
No,
that Fitzpatrick probably would at this point probably been playing. They've played this kid long enough now to know what they've got in him. Is
well,
he chained enough
Fitzpatrick's hurt,
games
right?
together to say that he can stay?
He's a band-aid.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is like you can't even keep him next year because how can you have him in the room when you're bringing in a new quarterback next year? He's not gonna like his career is just kind of get starting. He's not a peer mentor to the next guy. Fitzpatrick might be with Washington next year, but I'm fairly certain that Heineke won't be. And they will be getting a guy, whether it's in the first or second round, which it does seem like a lot of these quarterbacks that we were highly projecting at the beginning of the season are falling out. But I mean, that kind of stuff usually changes when you get a little bit deeper into the draft process. But a lot of them are looking like second round picks now. But I don't think anybody would have pegged Baker Mayfield as the first round or first overall pick a few years ago. So, but we're talking about Baker Mayfield. I mean, the Browns got shit kicked, and this is weird to even think about, but that was the 5th home game for the Patriots this year, but their first win. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was something that I had to go back and relook, and I was like, wow, that's wild. But what does this mean for the Browns?
Oh, this is a moral loss. Like demoralizing loss. Like all in all, it's not just you went into and played against a good team and got beat up. Like you got really exposed yesterday. You let a team that has had trouble having a 100-yard rusher out of a single player get it rather than by running back by committee. They let
Right.
Kendrick Bourne, who I think is a good receiver, but the guy looked absolutely stellar yesterday. Holy crap. The guy going up over double coverage and shit like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty demoralizing for Cleveland as a whole. So I don't know where they go from here. It's in a tough spot in that division with you guys taking a tie there. I mean, anything's really up for grabs still.
Well, the way that the press conferences went after, and I'm going to direct this one more towards Chad, but I want your input too, Kalen. So Myles Garrett comes into his press conference, and the first thing he starts talking about is how none of the coaches were willing or able to make it seemed like it was more willing to make an adjustment on the sideline to what was happening to them. And he made some kind of remark about dropping him back into coverage. What if you're the Browns coaching staff, like, what are you saying to Myles Garrett to get this shit back together? Because this seems to be a Browns trend, at least over the last few years. The second things start to get negative, the players go after the coaches. It's why they don't keep coaches.
It just shows that the culture there is so weak. That's a loser mentality. It's always somebody else's fault, not mine. It's a system's fault. It's not the talent's fault. We already know Myles Garrett can rush the passer. We don't have to sit here and have that debate.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing as an outside linebacker in that system, as TJ Watt learns too, like there's things you have to do that aren't just rushing the passer. And it's what's better for the team in that situation. And if you have a problem with it, you go talk to your defensive coordinator in private. You go talk to your head coach in private. You can bring all of them in at the same time and have that conversation, even in your position group coach. You do not go to the media about it. Like I said, that's a loser mentality, and that's a me first attitude. And I don't give a flying fuck how much money Myles Garrett makes. That's the kind of stuff that makes players not want to play for you either, because that's putting you like you're better than the rest of them. It's when you go and do things like that.
Right, yeah. And Kalen, like what do you think of that? So I mean,
Well,
what would
I'm-
Vrabel do if any of these guys went into that and he was their coach?
Well, if some of them said that to the media in the press conference, we've already seen Vrabel call out a future Hall of Fame wide receiver after his first game. So, and he took a lot of heat for that. But that's the type of coach that Vrabel is. I think that he would absolutely shut this the hell down. And I got to echo what Chad said. The guy is leading in sacks because he has one job: get to the quarterback. He gets asked to do something else, and he wants to have a pity party about it. If you look at the other 4 to 5 people on the sack list next to him, They're all outside linebackers that, as Chad just mentioned, TJ Watt is one of them. Harold Landry, one of them. Hassan Reddick, one of them. Matthew Judon, in a very complicated New England scheme. They are all dropped into coverage from time to time. That's what happens. It's what they're asked to do. And at this point too, I mean, I saw it on Twitter. I think there was only about 3 or 4 plays that he was asked to do this, and it was late in the game. It was not early on in the game. And it's what I think at this point when it happened, it was, you got to try something. Nothing is working. So you got to disguise your blitzes at this point because the straight 4-man rush is not working anymore. Pony up and play the game, man.
Well, you got to drop into coverage to keep them honest too, right? And if you just only rush every single time, then they can just figure out how to do it. If you can show you're coming and step off, you're always going to give, especially a young quarterback like Mac Jones, you got to make him think. Whether the game's over or not, just do your responsibility, keep your fucking mouth shut, take your paycheck, and move on to next week.
Yeah, and for a guy that wants to walk around wearing a cape of all the quarterbacks he's sacked, I mean, personally, if it's me, I wouldn't mind adding a little some footballs on there. You know, about the interceptions you potentially get, or the sack fumbles you get outside as you're in coverage, kind of thing, or the strip fumbles, right? Like, add up to your legacy, but don't pity parties after we're going into zone coverage 4 times in a game. Grow up.
Well, yeah, it's just such a Browns thing.
You know,
it's a loser mentality.
I don't know if this Baker Mayfield injury, how serious it's actually going to be. But we're going to discuss a little bit about the Browns' future probably a little bit later on in the show, as far as what the rest of their season holds. But there was a team that we were all burying. I guess the Kansas City Chiefs are in first place in the AFC West. And I don't know if that's more of what they looked way better last night than they've looked all year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers all had their opportunity to kind of put something together there, and they did not do it. Nobody put these guys away, and now we stand after Week 10. The Chiefs are where they need to be. They're getting healthy. They look much better. It's almost Thanksgiving. It's hard to imagine that the Chiefs aren't winning that division at this point.
Yeah, I think you said it right. The Chargers, in my opinion, have lost this division. It was their division to win. The Raiders, unfortunately, are in too much disarray to even be in contention, I think, anymore. And it's no fault of their it's not their fault where they're at right now as an organization for what's happened there. So I'm not putting it. The Chiefs are just taking advantage of the division falling apart. I don't think the Broncos were ever that good, ever. Teddy Bridgewater, I know you guys really loved him last year. Then you finally gave up on him. He had a Cam Newton type play yesterday. I don't know if you saw. He could have the pick 6. He could have tackled the guy. I needed one of these. Didn't even do anything after that, making it the actual tackle. So that just goes to show where his head's at. You need a leader at quarterback, and Denver hasn't had it in a couple of years. So
I think more than a couple, but yeah. I mean,
trying to be nice for him.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Manning's been out of there for 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Chiefs, I mean, what did you guys see? Like, what was the formula last night? How did they get themselves back on track? Because it looked really easy.
Well, I think the easy part was that the Las Vegas. I caught myself.
I called them Oakland, didn't I? I did call them Oakland earlier, I think.
Doesn't matter. They played like they're still in Oakland last night.
Yeah.
They literally are so far gone. I think a lot of teams could have beat them last night. And like as Kaylin says, no faults of their own. It's a lot of stuff that you can't really throw at the players that are there. The stuff that's kind of all happened. But the Chiefs could just do no wrong offensively, and it looked like Patrick Mahomes was finally comfortable. He wasn't running for his life. That's literally what the difference was to me. He got to move at his own speed. He got to leave the pocket when he wanted to leave the pocket. And he had time. Like Tyreek could run free. Tyreek didn't have to make a play in 2 seconds to get open. He actually got to play football and do his thing. And I think that was a big thing. Defensively, I just think the Raiders are just so far gone. They have no receivers. There's no threat there anymore to stretch the field. And so, yeah, I think it was almost like easy. It was an easy win for the Chiefs. As Kaylin said, the Chargers have just fallen right off, and I was super high on them. So I was all about it. But all about them, I should say. But yeah, the Chiefs, we talked about it a couple of times, and I kept thinking they were going to make a comeback. I was a few weeks late, but I think the division gave it to them. I don't think it was them taking it, and I think that's the difference. Why the Chiefs don't scare me anyways. because I think it's the division that gave it to them.
Well, I mean, the game last night could have went very differently if Deshaun Jackson just knows how to hold on to a ball or decide to actually run north instead of east and west. Like, I don't know why he cut across the field there. You're a burner. Get upfield for another 10 yards rather than running east for another 9 and then getting strip set or fumbled. Like, that was silly. That the game could have certainly went a different direction if it wasn't for that single play. And for a guy who just asked for his release, this is your play. This is where you get your namesake back. That's terrible, man. But that is where the Raiders are right now. Nobody has the luck right now.
Now, are we going to give any credit to the Chiefs' defense at all?
No.
I can't do it. No, I mean, again, it was just the team isn't built anymore. They don't have it. They talked about it last night a couple of times how they don't have anybody to stretch the field. They bring in this 34-year-old wide receiver who's supposed to stretch the field for him, but forget that he's only 5'10" and doesn't know how to actually, play that wide receiver role anymore. I feel Deshaun is good if you get him a 5-yard slant and let him go after that, but that's pathetic. The offense they put on the field last night, I think, and like Chad said, a lot of teams would have beat the Raiders last night. A lot of teams would have beat the Raiders the last 2 weeks. They are not the same team they were 3 weeks ago, and that's because of loss of personnel, unfortunately. So here we are.
Yeah.
Sorry, Raiders fans. Sorry, Rick.
They get no credit for shutting down Darren Waller and making it difficult on Josh Jacobs.
Oh, okay. So here's where I'll give them credit. When the only threat on the field is Darren Waller, which hasn't been the case for most of the season, good on you for shutting him down. That's what I guess I'll say to the Chiefs.
Right.
Daniel Sorensen actually was able to cover a little bit last night, but
yeah, Andy Reid's son-in-law got an interception last night.
yeah.
I'm assuming, right? Like we've come out and decided that that's probably Andy Reid's son-in-law.
Yeah,
It has to be.
Is that where you were leading into? Is that where you wanted to get to? With me saying that Daniel Sorensen played an okay game last night?
Well, hey,
that's where we're at, eh?
For all the burying we've done of that fella, it's probably it's a good idea to give him a little bit of a shout out.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look like a football player on the sideline when he takes his helmet off. That's all I'm saying.
No. Neither is Cassius Marsh. I went back and looked at that presser. He does look like white boy Rick.
yeah, 100%. And that's and I mean, just to put a finishing touch and a bow on that, the league doesn't fine you if it wasn't actually supposed to be taunting. So sorry about your luck, Bears fans. I mean, all those Bears fans that are whining, peace out.
Yeah, he's seen some things. That's what he looks like. He's seen some dark times in his life. That guy has seen some bad things.
He's in the dark time in his life right now, it looks like. Still.
Yeah, the guy's a disaster. But look, I don't know. I'm going to give a little bit of credit to the Chiefs defense because I do think that they were playing better. I think that they simplified what they were doing, and it made it a little bit more complicated for Derek Carr to read it. At points, it looked like Derek Carr had no idea what he was seeing, and he was just chucking it in the air to the point where, like, that's where that interception came from Sorensen. Carr just threw it up and to see what happens. The score might not be as indicative to the way that the game was actually played because it wasn't really out of hand, and like you said, until Jackson fumbled that ball. And was that in the third quarter?
Yeah.
And I mean,
right at the very end of the third there.
Yeah, the fourth quarter was completely dominated by Kansas City, but I don't know. It's annoying that Kansas City's back. I'm glad that the Titans already got their game with them out of the way so that we don't have to listen to that breakdown, but we'll see how it goes when they play somebody outside the division. I don't know what the Chiefs' upcoming schedule looks like, but they definitely still have some tough ones ahead of them. You got it in front of you there, Jay?
I'm getting it right now for you, my man. We'll get a half second.
The real Jay Glazer would have had that faster.
All right, so they got the Cowboys next, so they got a banger next, and
okay,
then they got their bye,
the
and then they got to play 3 straight division games. They go Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, and then the Steelers, Bengals, Broncos is how they finish the season out. So it's not that hard of a co-schedule, right? The Chargers, if the Chargers wake up, I mean, that's what they'll be playing for.
Yeah.
So just so you know, Walmart Jay Glazer, one of our fans, got the schedule before you did.
Oh, thank you.
Walmart Jay, low everyday prices. What a view.
It's the only one we can afford.
We got about 7 minutes before Trevor joins us here. So let's just go ahead and we kind of did this last week, but let's put a little bit more of an official burial for some of these teams that are hanging around, whether it be the AFC or the NFC. I want you to bury a team and tell me why we're doing it. Don't pick like fucking the Bears.
That's a tough one right now. If we're not picking the Bears, I mean, that you really narrow. Okay, the Niners. The Niners are done. They're going to lose tonight.
Even if so if they were to win tonight, is that going to change your mind?
I think
Yeah.
it's a strong win. Absolutely.
Joseph and I are on the same page. I'm saying the Browns too, but we'll come.
But they're still, if they win tonight, they're still 1-3 in the division. I mean, they really aren't making up a whole lot of ground off a win tonight.
Look, I think that all the motivation for tonight, and I mean, it's the 49ers and the Rams tonight, countdown to kickoff, because we got to make sure that Liam knows what's up. If the Rams needed any motivation tonight, it's either at this point, if they were to win and the season were to end, they play Carolina. If at this point they are to lose and get themselves into some kind of weird situation, they're playing the Bucks. So would you rather play Carolina or the Bucks? I understand that Killer Cam was back and he was out there, but come on, we know who we'd rather see in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And if you're Sean McVay, you have to instill this into Stafford, who hasn't had a lot of meaningful games in his life. Dude, this Monday Night Football game is probably one of the most important regular season games you'll ever play in.
Yeah.
I can see. No, give it to Chad. Give it to Chad. Chad has something on his mind. I can see the wheels turning.
I'm going to bury a person and not a team.
Okay.
Mike White, the White Lightning is over.
Oh, White Lotus.
He was born in week 8. He died in week 9. It is over. Everything that we talked about 3 weeks ago, the saying what Zach Wilson needs to happen, is exactly what happened. Robert Saleh got what he needed. He needed that quarterback to play horrible so they don't regret that first pick. And the White Lotus is done. It's easy as that. I'm not going to sit here and pick a team to bury. It's just over for him. He's going back. He came out and said he should have been the first quarterback taken in that draft. And it was just like,
what a beaut.
Man, I was rooting for you, Mike White. I wanted you to do so well. Mostly because I don't like Zach Wilson. But you just ruined it for me. And you ruined it for himself. His now career is over. And he might become the next Nate Peterman.
Ooh, Peterman.
That's where I'm taking him.
I wouldn't mind burying the Colts, too. I think the Colts are done.
Well,
Listen, I know they won yesterday. I know they won, but they still got to play in Jacksonville later on in the season. I think Jacksonville was due for a win there yesterday. They just lost that game, unfortunately. And they got a really tough bottom half of their schedule here, too. So difficult in the AFC as it is.
I think the Colts could scare some people. I think they're going to ruffle some feathers, man. They started 1-4. And I know you don't want to hear it, and I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but that's a team I wouldn't want to play down the road, man. They can run the ball well. The defense is finally coming back to who I thought they were. And Carson Wentz isn't that bad. He's not playing great. He's not that bad. And they have a phenomenal run game. Down the stretch, that can work. As you know, you're a team that relies heavy on the run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're going to be a top team. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. But I think down the stretch, that could be a scary team. I'm not burying the Colts. And I know you don't want to hear that. But I don't think they're as bad as what you think they are.
I'm going to put the Colts in the same kind of family of team as the Steelers. They're the kind of team that if everything's going well for them, watch out. But when it's time to be bad, it's time to be bad. They're going to be fucking horrible. And we talked about it just before we came on. We're not going to bore ourselves with a 16-16 tie, but there can't be a single person in the world that is telling me that if Ben Roethlisberger wasn't on they're calling it the virus list now. If he wasn't on the virus list, that the Steelers don't win that game 40-16.
I guess if ifs and buts were sugar and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, wouldn't we, Shane?
That's some awkward, uncomfortable shit you just said.
Wow.
What do you mean? You just made fun of me 10 minutes ago for saying the word if, Chad, and he's using if right now. So I'm gonna make fun of him a little bit too. The bottom line is
just saying the way that you said what you just said.
Lions.
Yeah, and that's fine. And
this
that
is
means
and you can't make fun of me for the Jets anymore.
Yeah, so there's two teams that are undefeated over their last 5. Do you know who they are?
The Lions, the Steelers,
No,
the
not the
Titans.
Lions. Not the Lions.
Oh, not the Lions. Sorry, I said the last 5. Sorry. How they in the month of November? I thought I saw this meme. Who? The Titans, the Steelers.
That's it, man.
Oh, okay.
And that's it.
So
And
AFC
look,
North rivalry back in the day, huh?
look, when it comes down to it, the Steelers are going to be sniffing around. Now, one thing that hurts, Chad and I both with CoolBet bet the Steelers over 8.5 wins. And at this point, I think that if that tie did anything, it preserved Mike Tomlin's record, and they might go 8-1. And that's not a losing season. That's not a losing season.
But it doesn't get me the 8.5 wins. It doesn't get me the 8.5 wins, though.
Yeah. If that's not a big fuck you to Marty Schottenheimer, I don't know what it is.
Jesus.
Because right now they're tied for the most. I don't know if you knew that, but they're tied for the most. We got about, I don't know, 20 seconds here before Trevor joins us.
Never thought I'd see the day you'd be so happy about a tie, because I've heard you do some rants about how useless ties are in the past.
Well, they are, but the only thing it's going to do is it's going to keep Mikey T's record intact, and we'll be all right. Look, the AC's falling apart, man. We're going to talk about that a little bit after. I don't know. Our guy will be on here in a sec. Yeah, we can bring him in now.
I just can't believe the Lions just cannot win a football game. Like, it's such a Detroit thing.
This guy that's coming in to join us, he's a friend of the show, but we should describe him as probably the Tennessee Titans of winning Super Bowls. He is very
He's
good
never
at
done
coming
it?
in second. No, he's very good at coming in second.
God.
There he is. Hopefully you didn't hear my intro. I shouted you out as the Tennessee Titans of drivers, because the Tennessee Titans are only able to ever come second. Welcome to the show, Trevor. Hey, we appreciate you.
Shane's an asshole if you couldn't tell.
I've been called worse by better, Shane, but thanks a lot.
Hey, no, I appreciate that. No, we appreciate you coming on, man. Tell us about, obviously, for anybody that doesn't understand the joke that we had before we came on here, Trevor had tremendous season on 2 different circuits, podiumed in both, wasn't quite there, but I mean, that's what we work towards. And you said, if you're not first, you're last, basically, before you came on. But I'll let you describe your season, kind of how it went for you.
Yeah, it was an up and down season, a little bit of a roller coaster, but in the end, we ended up second in the Delaware Superstock Series out of, I think, 22 drivers in a weekly basis, so that was all right. And then in the Quick Series, there was 45 or 50 different drivers that were racing in that circuit. The first race of the season was at Delaware, my home track, and there was, I think, 42 cars that tried to qualify for that night, and we won the first one. So that was debatably one of the biggest, if not top 3 wins in my life. So that was pretty cool to win that one in front of all the fans. First one after the COVID stuff, right? Kind of first time back at Delaware since all the COVID madness. And then we went on to our Delaware weekly opening, and we ran really good in that one. Kind of got caught up in a wreck, came from the back, ended up finishing 3rd, and then won the next 2 in a row at Delaware again. So we started off the season red hot. We won 3 out of the first 4. Like, can't do a whole lot better than that. So we were really on the up. And then with the Quick traveling series, our next stop was in Peterborough. And yeah, we're riding the high heading there, and we wrecked on lap 1. So like I said, as far as a roller coaster, we're up here and we came down very quick. So that definitely threw a wrench into our season, and probably threw a couple wrenches in the shop that week. But anyways, it was a lot of work to get the car fixed and back together, and it didn't help us with the traveling series points, because like I said, we were up top and then we wrecked. The only fortunate thing for us in that was, like I said, the Delaware opener, there were 40 cars, and at Peterborough, there were only 25 or 26. So me finishing last in that one, as opposed to finishing last at Delaware, was a lot better, because you get points per position. So, with not as many cars there, so that didn't hurt us as bad. And throughout the season, it was just like that. Like then we got back on a winning streak, and then we got wrecked. Then we got back winning again, a wreck, and it was just back and forth, and just not as consistent as we would like it. When we weren't getting wrecked, we were fast. Like we had really good speed. Some of the traveling tracks, we struggled throughout the day a little bit, but then we worked and worked and worked and didn't give up and got it back good. By the end of the race, like one race in Sunset, so that's up in Innisfil. I'm sure you guys know where that is, up by Barrie.
Yep.
We were probably 27th out of 30th for cars in practice, like third or fourth slowest car there. And we worked on it all day, all night. And finally, with about 10 laps to go in the race, after we came in 4 or 5 times under cautions to adjust on the car, we finally got the thing working good. And we drove from 16th to 6th in the last like 10 laps. So like we fought all year long, even when we were down, we wouldn't give up, and we keep fighting back, and found a way to have some good finishes and give us a chance at the end there. And our second last quick traveling series race was at Flamborough Speedway, and that one we raced on the Saturday. So this season was crazy. Like I think everyone knows, or if anyone doesn't know, so typical racing at Delaware Speedway is on Friday nights, and then all these other tracks that we raced at. So Sunset Speedway, which is in Innisfil, Flamborough Speedway, which is over by Hamilton. What else we got? So Delaware, Peterborough, obviously Peterborough. They're a bunch of different tracks we travel to, and they all race on Saturdays. So we got caught a couple times where we raced Friday night at Delaware, and then we had to race at a different track the next day. So the Friday night at Delaware, this was September 7th or somewhere towards the end of the season. We raced at Delaware on the Friday night, absolutely destroyed the car, went straight from the racetrack to McCall Racing Enterprises in London, where they do all racing stuff. That's where we buy all of our racing parts, and they do work on cars. Typically, myself and my crew do a lot of it, but anything that we need help with, we go there. So we went straight from the racetrack to there, worked from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m., and then went home with the race car. It was we did as much at McCall Racing as we needed to, and we do the rest at my shop. So got home at about 5:30 a.m., slept till 7 a.m., got back up and thrashed on it all day long until it was time to go to the racetrack. When we pulled into the track in Flamborough to go show up for practice, everyone in my class was pulling out onto the track. So we like made it just in time for practice.
Wow.
And the car wasn't very good. We adjusted on it, got it to, I think we were third or fourth fastest in practice, got it finally good. And the next lap, the rad cap came loose. Water came out of my rad and onto my tires, and we went straight into the wall again. Totally destroyed the car. We had an hour and a half before qualifying. Myself, my crew, other drivers and teams. For those of you who don't know, racing is a very tight-knit community. So even though I'm battling against some of these guys, like some of the guys I'm battling for the championship, they're coming over and lending me parts, anything to get us back on the track. It's a competitive group, and they want to beat you on the track, not on the track. So everyone's lending a hand. We got it back together just in time for qualifying. There's 21 cars there, and we qualified third after totally destroying the car and just working like heck to get it back together. We ended up finishing sixth in that one. So we salvaged all these bad days and turned them into the good ones. So that was a big part of it. And we headed into the last race of the season at Delaware in the traveling series as a points leader. part of that was because some of our good finishes in the season, and they also had a home track incentive. So they want you to race at your home track and to do well at your home track, and those points will transfer over to the traveling series, just to ensure that guys aren't just running the traveling series and they're supporting their home tracks. Because without the home tracks, the series wouldn't be around and the racing wouldn't happen.
Right.
So we did very well in our home track points, and that helped give me a boost heading into this last one. And like I said, we were the points leader going in, and we ran pretty good. We were running right around the top 5, right where we should be. About 15 laps into the race, and I was passing another driver for 4th or 5th spot, I can't remember. And I was underneath him, and he decided I wasn't underneath him and turned down and spun himself out on me. And the rule is supposed to be consistent. It definitely isn't. The rule is supposed to be the spinner and the spinnee have to go to the back, or sometimes they make judgment calls and sometimes they don't. And
Jeez. I never knew there was rules within. I knew there's like, courtesy rules, I felt, but I don't know there's rules like this. I thought it was like when you come out, where you come out, just keep going.
no. They black flagged me and put me in the back, even though like. And speaking of rules, so there's rules between drivers too. So there's the rule with drivers that if you are to a person's door, that's your spot. So if I'm passing you on the highway and I'm up to your door where you can see me out of the corner of your eye, looking out of your window, if you could see me, that's my spot. So I was to that guy's door and I was to the inside of him, but he still came down. I think I explained this to you guys earlier. The fastest way typically around the racetrack is the bottom, the inside. So I was on the inside and he's on the outside. He was getting, another racing term, freight trained, getting freight trained to the back because he was on the outside and he just wanted to get to the bottom. I think that he thought, oh, well, Trevor will let me in. But no, I was there and I'm battling for the championship. I'm battling to try and drive to the front and win this race. So I was there and he came down, spun himself out on me, and so I had to go to the back, and there was 30 cars there that night. And the guy I was chasing was right in front of me when that happened. So I was the points leader. He was second in points, and if I stayed on his bumper the whole race, kept him in my sights, I would have won the championship. But that didn't happen, so I had to go to the back. I was driving my way back through the field, and I was a little more aggressive than I usually am with everything on the line. And I could have went to the outside of a guy and passed him in 2 laps, or I could have bumped him and knocked him up the track and passed him in half a lap. And I was dealing with time, so I was bumping some guys, and I bumped this guy a little too hard, and I spun him. I got black flag again, which that was my fault. I'll take all the credit for that one. I apologize to the guy.
Isn't bumping racing? Isn't that what I remember watching Days of Thunder back in the day? Isn't that what the saying was? Bumping is racing, right?
Rubbing is racing. That's the one.
All right, rubbing is racing. That's what it is. Okay.
But yeah, so I had to go to the back again. And I started marching my way back up through the field. So again, back in 30th, and I drove all the way up to finish 6th. And I needed to finish 3rd to clinch it. I came up a couple spots short, and on to 2022.
All right.
So I have a couple questions I want to ask.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm assuming, I could 1000% be wrong. You can tell me if I am. Does your car have to be at a certain spec level so you're even competition with everybody on the track?
Yeah.
Because like obviously you want to tweak it to make it work for how you want it, but is there like a gray area that you must be in at all times?
Yeah. So kind of like it sounds. So this is stock car racing, so it's supposed to all be stock to a degree. There is a rule book that we have to follow. So for instance, some easy rules that I think all people would understand. So there's a minimum ride height. So to exaggerate it, would a monster truck go around a corner better, or a sports car? A sports car, because the center of gravity is lower, right? So there's a minimum ride height that your car has to be. There's a minimum weight your car has to be, because the lighter the better, but they want to keep everyone at an equal weight. The motors in these cars have to be either a sealed motor. So a sealed motor, it's a GM crate motor that when they're building these motors, the tools that they're tightening some of these bolts with will snap right off inside the heads of these bolts so that you could see this is a sealed motor. I can't get in it. And there's tags on it through from GM. So that's one option to run for a motor, or you could run a built motor that you can build and do a couple more things to. But the disadvantage with that is you have to add weight to compensate for that. There's maximum left side weight. So everyone thinks, oh yeah, I'll put all the weight to the left side and it'll go around the corners left way better. Yeah, that's great, but you're only allowed to weigh 55% of your total weight. So your left side can only be 55 of that total. Yes.
Okay.
So there's all these different rules. There's body rules. There's tire rules. You can only run so many tires, only a certain compound of tires. Your car can only be so wide. There's a lot of rules. And within those rules, it comes down to the driver part of it, or the other part of it is your creativity and your homework, how much you've studied, and what different ideas you came up with, what ideas you've tested. It's all about testing and trying out things on the race car that are going to work and that aren't going to work. If you don't test, you don't try, right?
Just like playing Gran Turismo, right?
That's exactly how I would put it. Yes. Exactly.
That's really how I thought too,
Hit the
Caleb.
nail on the head there. That's what we talk about in the shop all the time.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah. it
So
has to
my
be
only
a
other
video game.
my only other question is, everybody knows that you guys only turn left. Have you ever turned right on purpose? If you know what I'm trying to say. You don't, like, I don't think you're the kind of guy that would take somebody out on purpose, but have you ever accidentally turned right?
It's funny. I am actually. I think I am, anyways, to be known as one of the cleaner drivers out there, and I don't know if I've ever actually turned right. I turned really hard left once, back in 2000 and I'm gonna break some sweats thinking about this. 2006, I think.
Hey, I've had concussions too. It happens if you remember things.
2006, I believe it was my rookie year, and I was racing against my brother, and my family was out there watching this race, and my brother was going to pass me and beat me, and I didn't really like the idea of everyone seeing him beat me, so I turned really hard left and spun us both out into the infield. We're both tangled up together in our cars, and at this time I'm 10 years old and he's 12 years old, and his arms are flailing and he's yelling at me, and I'm just playing stupid or playing ace. I was like, oh, I lost it. I didn't mean to do that, right? But I didn't want him to beat me, and I didn't want people to see that, so I went and put him in the grass.
If you only knew how much I respect that right now. There's not a chance in hell I would let my sibling beat me at anything. I respect that so much.
I'm sure he's watching right now, shaking his head.
Now, you've obviously been in racing for a long time then.
Yeah.
Like if you're racing at 10. So what got you into racing?
Well, it's funny actually. So my dad and his 6 brothers are.
I knew it. It's either the dad gets you into it, or he's into it right away as soon as you come home and say, "Dad, I want to be a racer."
No, you're wrong, Ziggy.
Okay.
So my dad and his 6 brothers are all.
Oh, we lost him.
And my mom got me into racing.
Oh, the mom got you into racing. You came back, you cut out and came
Okay.
back just in time for us to hear mom got you into racing. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah, no, she's a diehard NASCAR fan, and yeah, as much as you think, yeah, dad mechanic, whatever. No, she's the one that got us into racing.
Wow.
And I started in kind of go-karts sort of thing, and her and my stepdad did a ton of work on it. And then as I got into the bigger stuff, into the full-size vehicles, my dad and his brother and some of my other uncles got a lot more involved and helped me get to where I am today. So I got to thank all of them for that big time.
Now, is it difficult being the best looking person in racing, or is that something they've come to grips with at this point?
Thank you for that, Shane. After that wonderful
Yeah.
introduction, I guess you owe me one. So thanks for that.
It was more of a shot at Kalen about the Titans than you, by the way.
Ass. So you mentioned you've been in a few wrecks. Like, are pretty severe? Anything pretty bad? Like flipping the car at all, or just bumping into the wall and doing enough damage that the car takes you out of the race, kind of thing?
No, knock on wood. I haven't actually flipped the car yet. I've been in some very bad accidents though. So a couple times we had to basically chop the front frame rails off the car. So put a front clip on it, and basically what that means is from my feet or the firewall forward, we've had to cut that off of the car and start over. Weld the new frame back on it.
Wow.
Put everything all back together. It's we've had some expensive crashes and some fun weeks to get the cars back together after some bad wrecks.
I imagine like
do
that's
you go through in a summer? Like
What's
how much
that?
duct tape? How much duct tape do you go through in a summer?
That is a good question. It's funny. The last race of the season, where I explained that story, how this guy got black flagged and went to the back, and so my car was pretty trashed after that night, and that was Friday, September 24th, and Saturday, September 25th. The next day, I was getting married, so my stepdad fixed the car all up that next morning to bring it to the wedding, and there's duct tape everywhere. And one of my groomsmen was about to walk into the wedding and make his grand entrance, and we had to walk by the race car on the way in, and his rental shoe was falling apart. So he grabbed a piece of duct tape, of black duct tape, off of the race car, wrapped it around his shoe so it would hold it together for the night, and then marched into the wedding.
wow.
That's such a commercial for duct tape. If I ever needed to hear one.
Yeah.
He's a farmer, so he had to improvise. It's pretty cool.
So you mentioned earlier you had some pretty expensive crashes and stuff, and I feel like that. I imagine that's probably what would take a person out of the sport, rather than just getting bored of it. I think once you got the itch, you got the itch. But it's probably this expense that would really make any of your friends leave it, right?
Oh yeah, it's there's lots of guys that have had bad enough wrecks that they just can't do it. I'm very fortunate in that sense that I've got a lot of sponsors that support me, and if something unfortunate were to happen like that, like it did this year, a couple sponsors stepped up and said, well, what's it going to cost? Like, we need to get you back out there. We got to get it fixed. But some of these crashes, like I think the one crash this year, it was close to $6,000 or $7,000. Like the thing.
Holy.
Yeah, it was.
Jesus. And that's you guys doing the work too. So that's not even really the labor, right? That's just getting the parts.
Right. That's right.
Holy crap.
We had a little bit of work done. Like I can do most of the work on the car, but the one thing I can't do is weld the new frame rail onto the old chassis, just because I don't have the fixture table to get it all lined up. In the right
What are you good for, Trev? Come on, man.
I know.
One job, eh?
So that part of it, we had to pay McCall Racing to do, but then majority of the rest of it, me and my dad, my uncle, my other crew guys, we all put the thing all back together. And yeah, I like to say, if we had to pay labor on all that, it wouldn't even be funny.
Be over. Wow.
Yeah. Well, we could probably slap one of our going for 2 stickers on your car somewhere, as long as you
There you
promise
go.
not to wreck it.
No
But
promises
first week, these guys are coming to the first race. As
That's
long as
awesome.
it's in Delaware, because I don't know
Yeah,
if we can
we'll
travel
have to
any
get
further
you.
than that.
We'll have to get you some Trevor Collver Motorsports t-shirts, a hat. We'll get you.
Hey.
some.
All right.
Yeah, get
Down
you.
with it.
100%. We will wear that on every episode. So we are absolute sellouts for that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, it's awesome.
man, I want to just let you know we appreciate you taking your time, and there was definitely no hard feelings over the intro, because we just had to enter it. And anytime anybody comes on and I have a free shot at Kalen, I definitely take it. Just so you're aware. But we appreciate you taking your time, man. It was a lot of fun, and hope you enjoy it. You're welcome back anytime.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys, and look forward to seeing you in the spring.
Yeah,
We'll be
man.
there.
You got me sold in the sport, man. I love the fact that you're growing it, and you got me hooked on it right now. I'm going to come see you for sure.
All right, awesome. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Later,
Appreciate you,
Trev.
dude.
See ya.
All right. Well, I don't even know how we circle back to football, but we might as well somehow.
Just turn
Good guy,
left.
eh? Yo,
That's
good
all you got to
guy, eh?
do. Turn left back
Yeah,
to football.
We got to turn
Yeah.
left on this one. We kind of already talked about the Chargers, but how about this Cam Newton guy? You guys ever heard of him? He plays for the Panthers now. Grabbed a
Oh,
couple touchdowns.
God. Yeah,
All right, can we
yeah.
just
I
go
mean,
talk
he
about
got a
college
two.
football? Let's talk about college football. No one
You wanna
cares
talk
about
about
Cam
college
Newton.
football? Are we done with the NFL?
I'm done with Cam Newton.
I mean, it's just like, he gets a touchdown 2 yards out. He has a nice passing touchdown from 4 yards out. Like, and he's out there yelling, "I'm back" and stuff like that. It was the defense that did most of the work there. Like, don't go bragging about getting 7 yards total, and that's you being a big name in this sport again. Like, relax. Like, listen, he's going to bring something to the table. He's going to bring some sort of the offense to the table they probably haven't seen in the last 5 weeks, which is pretty nice. I feel bad for PJ Walker. The guy just been shown the bench all over again, and it's not totally his fault, but like, I think the cockiness, and that's just Cam, that's the person he is, but yelling that "I'm back" shit when it's not really on the back of you that you're back getting these touchdowns, it's crazy.
All right. Well, we will circle to college football. 1 minute question: are the Seahawks due for a rebuild?
They've been a couple years. They've did rebuild. Just haven't done it.
Yeah.
So yes.
So I guess really quick, what would the first pick be? Assuming at this point the Seahawks are picking in the top 10, because I think that's pretty safe. Obviously, talent is going to determine. There's no way you're moving on from Russell Wilson unless you can get like a marvelous package for him, which you're not going to. Where does your first round pick go this year?
It's got to go O-line. These guys have been
O-line
chasing
or-
an
or
offensive
pass
line since
rusher?
like Hutchinson was there, man.
And you know what? I'm on Chad's side too. I think, and obviously it depends on who's available and what's around, but I think that you have to build it from the D line out, because that team, you have Jamal Adams. You have a few other pieces on that defense that are decent pieces. Their corners are not terrible corners. If you could put a little bit of pressure on opposing quarterbacks, your corners look even better. And if you look at, even if you use Green Bay as your model, the fact that Green Bay can get pressure on the quarterback is definitely going a long way for what they've been able to do. And I'm almost out on a limb and willing to say that Green Bay is maybe a top 3 defense in the league right now. And if Seattle had that and they were able to build a proper run game, which I think that a first round pick on a lineman is so hit and miss. But if you can get if you can get a decent run game and have a good defense, Russell Wilson will take you to where you need to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be best player available, either as an offensive tackle or defensive end. It's going to be one of the two of them. They need either protect Russell or get after the quarterback, and it's just best available. But that's where they have to be. Like, Kalen, you're not wrong at all by any means. There's not often we agree, but you're 100% right.
All right. Well, let's talk a little college football, because it looks like the I don't know if the Oklahoma Crew's on here or not tonight, but the Oklahoma Sooners went down. And
I'm going to go with they're probably not on here. They're probably crying right now.
yeah, I mean, that was a tough break. I mean, at this point, it's pretty safe to say the Big 12 is out, right?
Yeah,
We're
I
not
think
putting
yeah.
a one-win Big 12 team in anywhere.
No. They had to run the table.
I was telling you last week that I wouldn't put a no-loss Big 12 team in there.
At this point, I think that anybody that loses to Kansas is ineligible to be in a bowl game.
Stop it. I already
Forever.
made fun of the Big 12 and the Texas Longhorns long enough. You don't need to jump on that too. We're talking about
I can't
Oklahoma right now.
I cannot help it. It's what it is. As far as the rankings go, I don't think that we're going to get any kind of surprise, because none of the big dogs went down. It's still going to be 1 through 7 the way that it looks. Notre Dame is probably going to move themselves up to 8. If they don't, I'd be surprised. I mean, how can Oklahoma still hold 8? And at this point, I think that I'm still pretty comfortable saying that there is no avenue for the Cincinnati Bearcats to make the playoff. Cincinnati will be in one of those near 6 games. I was telling the boys earlier, our article series on rankings is kind of down to 8 teams right now. So we're just going to work on what the best New Year's 6 games will be, including the playoff. Now, when it comes down to that, obviously we've talked Notre Dame, Michigan. we have a decent idea of who is going to be in the playoff, provided there's no upset. Are you comfortable with a 3, potentially 4 loss eventually Pac-12 Utah team being in the Rose Bowl versus a Michigan State?
I mean,
think it has to be an
Michigan.
at-large bid.
Yeah. Was it
I
Michigan
don't
earned
know
it?
how the tie-ins work exactly, but I would almost prefer to see the Irish play the Spartans in the Rose Bowl. Like, I think that would be awesome.
This is where you
I
say,
just-
Chad, you would. You would.
No, but I don't care who it is, but the Rose Bowl is supposed to be something special. Putting in a 4-loss team is putting disrespect on the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Like you can't
granddaddy
be a
of them
4
all.
like you can't have a 4-loss team playing a New Year's 6 game. That just
Right.
takes all the prestige out of that game for sure, and out of what the college football big bowl games are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and they've been chasing
No.
a good Rose Bowl since the national championship with USC Texas. So
Now look, and so I think at this point, the question that is the most so we're gonna break down Michigan State, Ohio State on Thursday. We're gonna leave that for now. That game is coming up this Saturday. It's a huge game, but jumping ahead, I want to know if there's a 2-loss Alabama team because they ended up losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Is there any way that a 2-loss Alabama team gets in over an undefeated Cincinnati team?
No.
No chance.
I don't think they can because of the A&M loss.
Okay.
If they lost to Georgia and then another top-ranked SEC team, I think you could try to put up a fight. But losing to an unranked team in A&M, I think that's what's going to hold them back. Even if they lost in the final play to Georgia, like on the last-second field goal, I just don't think you could put a 2-loss team in, even if it is Alabama. As much
So-
as I think they do deserve to be there.
So if you're basing it on strength of schedule, which I'm assuming you are, I mean, let's just work on hypotheticals. Ohio State beats Michigan State. Ohio State beats Michigan. Ohio State's in. Now, Alabama loses that game, but there's a 1-loss team out there that you might be biased to decide on this, but I know that you'll be honest. There's a 1-loss team out there that could potentially get in over Cincinnati with a much better strength of schedule, and that's Notre Dame. Now, is there a potential that Notre Dame can find a way to jump from 8 to 4?
So it's actually really crazy that you asked me this question because we have not spoken today. ESPN put out a percentage of your chances of making the playoff, and Georgia obviously had the highest. Notre Dame actually had the second at 60%. And I was trying to figure out how. And my whole thing is, if Cincinnati doesn't lose, they're on the table. There's no way that we deserve to be ahead of them. As much as I would like to be in the playoff, to me, you lost head-to-head, and it wasn't like Cincinnati beat us up.
Right.
There's no way that I could even put us ahead of them if I was voting. So to me, like, and then if just say Cincinnati loses to who I don't even know who they have left on their schedule, but obviously not a top talent team, all of a sudden that puts a tarnish on our loss as well. So I actually don't see how Notre Dame can get in unless they leapfrog a couple 2-loss teams, and that's the only way.
I'll tell you, there's a playoff team in Oregon right now. That Oregon team lost to Stanford. If Notre Dame goes to Stanford and shit kicks them, I'm willing to put them ahead of Cincinnati. Style points are going to matter, but if you're talking about a team that beat a playoff team to get in, you're putting Ohio State in potentially. I'm looking at that, and head-to-head matters, but that head-to-head happened at the beginning of October. What are you now? What are you showing now? And you went in and you went to somebody else's house and you showed them what was what, and that team has handed a playoff team their only loss. I am very comfortable moving them up in the rankings. Now, none of that's going to happen because Kenneth Walker III is going to beat Ohio State, and then they are also going to beat Penn State. They're going to win the Big Ten championship, and at that point, it's going to be Michigan State and Georgia in the playoff, which is probably going to stink for us, but I'll take it humbly.
I know we gotta get out of here pretty quick. I want to ask you guys a simple question, and that's something that I've been like debating if it's even the thing. Do we need to stop people from rushing the field in college football?
Yes, I
Like
don't
Notre
understand
Dame
it.
did
I
at
think it's
Clemson
dumb.
last year, and it was the dumbest thing I ever saw. But someone's gonna actually get hurt because if some patron gets in the face of a losing player, like you saw it in the Michigan game, Shane,
Yeah.
homeboy dropped a shoulder in somebody.
Yeah,
Who's not to say someone's gonna come back and sue that player if that guy falls, breaks a collarbone,
yeah. You see
or
the
a
you see
player
the
gets or a player gets injured by some jackass running on the field.
Well, even like they're climbing the goalpost, right? So you climb
Yeah.
the goalpost, that goalpost falls, it hits fucking Bryce
Anybody.
Young in the head. It's not like the Alabama players rush the field, but that hits Desmond Ridder on the head. Or if we were to take down, if Michigan State's to take down Ohio State, let's say Michigan State fans rush the field in Columbus, which would be nuts. Won't happen, but they do that, and it ends up hitting Kenneth Walker III in the head with the fucking goalpost. I don't get it. I think it's a weird tradition. It's one of those traditions that's for TV only. And if the
Yeah.
games weren't so heavily televised, they wouldn't. But how did you feel about Kansas getting on the field?
Fuck you. But I want to bring up, like, I thought back when Appalachian State, they were the ones when they beat Michigan. Did their
Yeah.
field not? That was like one of the biggest ones when somebody actually got hurt with that. And then I thought there was a
Yeah.
rule put in place that like all these teams had to actually brace the field goal post more. It doesn't seem like anybody has.
I support heavily anytime anybody beats Michigan.
Like I said,
But
like,
I've been right there when like at the seniors game at Notre Dame when they rushed the field. That experience, man, I know what you're saying, Chad. You just can't take it away from those kids, bro.
but like these kids have nothing to do with it. Like you just go to school there. You don't win the fucking game. And I'm not like they have no reason to be on the field.
You
And
know what?
also they
Though,
come
I
down-
would counter that. I would counter that because last year when we didn't have fans in the stands, or the year before that, we all talked about how having that home team advantage wasn't there. You get 75,000 of your fans in the stands cheering for you. I feel that they did some effort to try and get you through that game too, right?
Well,
Yeah.
cheering and rushing the field is two different things. And we don't want to go too deep into overtime here because the game's already kicked off. Rams got the ball. Looks like a Cooper Kupp lookalike just took it to the 26-yard line. So that seems like a good enough reason for us to get out of here. But it's a great question. Let's bring it up again on Thursday. There's a few things we didn't touch on, but I'll be honest. After I started hearing Trevor talk, I knew it wasn't going to take 10 minutes. That was definitely going to take longer than that, but I'm comfortable with that. That guy taught us a lot about racing. Any final thoughts before we roll out, boys?
No.
Nope.
I want to plant some seeds for Thursday's show, guys. I want you to bring me potential coach of the year candidates.
Well, it's Mike Vrabel and everyone else, right? Is that
Stop it.
is that how it
I'm trying to have a
works?
conversation here, Shane.
All right,
but if you
yeah.
wanna
Well,
get
we
your
already,
will
we,
too.
we already know your vote though.
Yeah.
Listen, I got a couple as you have maybe thought of.
Yo, Odell already has his first catch. It's time to roll out, boys. All
Giddy
right.
up. All right, guys. Have a good
Before
night.
we go,
Cheers.
everyone, make sure you're subscribing to the Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch. Always make sure that we're thanking our friends over at CoolBet for all the love they give us. Joe Cool's Toboggan, check them out. We'll be back Thursday. Might be live in person. Might be live on here. I have no idea, but we'll see you Thursday.